a bit about yourself.
Well, my name's Jessica Bell. I have been teaching for 7 years now. I have 3 degrees, Bachelor of Arts degree in History and First Nations Studies, a B.Ed with a concentration in middle school education, and then a Master's of Science with a focus on educational leadership and methodology. And I've been working in the Coquitlam School District for my entire career.
That's a lot of education.
Yes, it is.
So, first I want to talk about defining a leader and leadership. Mm-hmm. So, how would you define a leader?
I think a leader is someone who can go into any situation and understand what needs to happen and the way to move a group towards a specific goal. Like, I think, like, specifically with teaching, and I've taught leadership before, when I get a group of kids together who, want to do a fundraising goal or want to do something really specific, we kind of a leader has to come and be able to see the potential and be able to get the group to that end result.
So, how do you do that?
It's tough. You have to understand the strengths of the people that you're working with. And I know for me, I always like to do some activities with the students beforehand. Like, what are you guys good at? Like, are you a good artist? Are you good with numbers? Are you good with public speaking? These types of things, and the kids really kind of figure out what their niche is, and then we can build our plan or whatever we're working on towards that goal, knowing what the kids have to offer.
So when you define leadership that way and being a leader, with your students, do you find it's the same way with other teachers that you work with and principals? And
I think that it's difficult, especially with in teaching, because I think that every single teacher is a leader, whether they like it or not. Mm-hmm. And then everyone has a different kind of leadership style. So that's just what I do when I go, when I first meet kids and things like that. And I think that with administrators too, with principals and vice principals, their leadership style is completely different than when you're a teacher, because their concern is for the entire school, mm-hmm. right? And they have to look, they're still looking at big picture, what they can do with the entire school, but there's so many other things that they need to take into consideration. And that I think in some ways their job is a little bit more difficult because of having to look after all the teachers. I'm a pretty stubborn person. I know what I want to do, and I try to do it, but I'm not the only one who's like that. So I think that administrators kind of have a little bit of they have a more difficult road to go.
So that kind of plays into my next question, which is if you think there's a difference between a manager and a leader, and what you think that difference is. So would you consider administration, they're more managing you guys than leading guys?
100%. I think that they do manage us. Mm-hmm. They kind of oversee all of the stuff that we're doing, and they really look at all the teachers and what they're doing in their classrooms and even outside the coaching and things like that. They really just are there to make sure that everything is kind of smooth, mm-hmm. right? And that's, I think, what administrators do. That's their job, is to manage us and to make sure that we're not doing anything that's too crazy, or they have to take things like safety into consideration and stuff like that. So the nuts and bolts more. Yeah. And it also really depends on what kind of administrator they are too, because I've had 5 different principals in my career, and they are all completely different. Mm-hmm. All completely different. Some were more managerial, they would just kind of, okay, you do what you like. We're here. We just want to make sure that we're adhering to our budget or whatever. And then there were some that were really more involved and wanted to be involved with the stuff that we were doing on the school level too. So,
mm-hmm. So do you think like you mentioned a leader, you go in and you look at everyone's strengths, mm-hmm. and then you kind of play on those strengths. Mm-hmm. Do you think that administrators do that?
I think that some administrators do that.
Mm-hmm.
I think with teachers, because we are very, a lot of us are very confident about who we are as educators, and I think that a lot of times administrators may be somewhat intimidated by that, and not, because, like, for example, my administrator last year and I went to school together. We did our masters together, so we have the same credentials, and so I think it was slightly difficult for him to talk to me in a more managerial way, because we were in a classroom together, like we're kind of on the same field, whereas I think that administrators kind of need to be up a little bit, like, kind of away from it, right? And being able to look in and see what's going on. So it is difficult because, teachers are a funny group. Love being a teacher, but they definitely have their quirks.
So, as a teacher, and even, like, this can be towards your students or towards, like, other teachers, what do you think are important skills and capabilities to be an effective leader? And do you think that all teachers have these skills and capabilities?
I think that first and foremost for me, and like this is from my now 7 years of teaching experience, is being able to admit when you're wrong. Mm-hmm. I think that is such an amazing skill, not just as a leader, but just as a person, just being able to, if you go into a situation and something happens, or you try something out and it doesn't work, to look at it and be like, yeah, I messed up. Like, we didn't plan it correctly, we didn't do this, and then actually seeing it as a learning opportunity, I think is crucial. And that's what makes a really good leader, is that when you can admit that you're wrong and you can show people, and especially with students, and I think that that's what's so important with being an educator, is that I tell my kids when I do something wrong. Mm-hmm. So, like, if we're planning something and something goes wrong, I will completely admit it. We didn't really plan it that well. What did we do wrong? Let's learn from it, so the next time we don't make the same mistake. And that is such a good lesson for kids to see, that adults and leaders that are in their life can realize when they've made a mistake. Because so many people, and like, I don't know what it is with people who are some leaders who think that it's a weakness.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I don't think that's weakness at all. I think that's such a strength to be able to look at a situation and be like, I totally messed up. So.
And would you think that it's also, like, being able to ask for help?
Oh, for sure. 100%. 100%. If you look at, like, a Terry Fox fundraising is a huge deal at any school, really. But I forget where I was going with this. What was the question again?
If being able to ask for help.
Oh, yeah. So, like, we want to raise a certain amount of money. So, say we wanted to raise, like, $20,000, it's a little difficult for me to do that on my own. Mm-hmm. And sending out emails and talking to other people about it, you get that feedback, like, where it comes to strengths. So, the art teacher at my school is an amazing artist. Mm-hmm. So use that strength. He can, create something, we can auction it off. Like, getting people more involved in that way, I think, is really important.
We kind of talked about this, but if there is one specific characteristic that you believe every leader should possess, what would it be? And that's not necessarily just for, like, teaching. Just if you think of leadership, what is one trait that you...
I think we kind of touched on it, but I think it's honesty. Mm-hmm. Like, call a spade a spade.
Yeah.
Tell me the truth. Because it comes out eventually anyways, and that's why, like, the administrators that I've really enjoyed working with are the ones that come to the staff meeting and say, hey, look, we don't have any money.
Right.
Our budget is shot to hell. We're going to have to get rid of 3 teachers this year. Mm-hmm. Those are the people that I trust and who I'm willing to work my butt off for, because they show me that side and are honest, right? I'm going to find out the truth anyways.
So it's almost, if they're honest with you, then you have more respect for them.
You totally do. 100%. And that's just with anyone. That's just with any situation. As soon as you have that kind of trust there, then you're more willing, to work harder, you're willing to take more risks, because you know that they're going to be honest with you if it doesn't work out, or if it does work out. Mm-hmm. Like, that is the base for everything, is just being honest.
Awesome. So we've kind of talked about your leadership style. Do you think it's something that evolves, or do you think it's something that will remain the same?
I think it evolves. My first year of teaching, it's every time I think about it, I always laugh, I always chuckle, because it was such a learning experience for me, and I look back on it now because I have evolved as a leader and as an educator to where I am now, and I look back on it and can think, oh wow, that was a really bad idea what I did. Like, that was not good.
So you would say that your leadership style kind of changes to the environment that you're in as well.
Yeah.
Like, so if you're with, like, even in a school environment, it would be slightly different than if you're, like you said, the Terry Fox runner or whatever.
Yeah, you have to really adapt to different situations, especially because there are a lot of times where, and teachers are perfect examples of this, we're all leaders. Right? So if we're at a staff meeting and we're trying to figure something out, there's always that one person who's going to step up and start, kind of corralling all of us. And it could be a different person each time. Right? So you really have to be able to adapt to different situations. Like, it's a skill to look at a group and be like, what does this group need? Like, do they need me to step up? Do they need me to be the one in charge? They need me to kind of get us going, or do I need to kind of take a back seat and just wait and see what happens, right?
I think that would, do you think that that's difficult as a leader? To be able to step back, because I would think that especially in a school environment, like when you're teaching your students, it's like you're the leader, you are in control, you call the shots, and then to go into a staff meeting where it's like 20 people that are all in the same position, I could imagine that would be really different.
You do need to read the situation, and sometimes the ones that end up being in control are just the loudest people, right? And it may not be the best route, right? But often that's what happens, is that there are people who are always the ones who are in charge because they, talk the loudest.
Right. So what inspires you and motivates you to be a leader?
I think it's kids. It's 100% kids. I every time I look at all of the students I've taught over the past few years, they're so amazing. They're amazing people. And just to be able to say that I had a small part in who they are as adults and who they will become as they get older is amazing. And I never want to be that person to say no to them. So if, like last year, for example, I was burning the candle at both ends, because honestly, I was doing leadership at my school. It was a brand new program. I was trying to figure out how to get all the kids involved. And every time, like almost every week, every other week, there's a group of kids coming to me like, Miss Bell, we want to do this. Let's do it. Right? And it's student motivated. Like I didn't go into it and be like, we're doing leadership, I want all of you kids in leadership. They were the ones who approached me about it, and I can't say no to that. Every teacher, every leader, every educator that I've had in my life who's meant something to me were the ones who were like, let's do it.
So that's actually kind of leads me to my next question. Who are those people in your life that you've that have inspired you or positively affected your leadership style?
A lot of my friends are educators. And when I am in situations like I was saying before, where I don't know what to do, I have a handful of people that I can go to and be like, I don't know how to handle this situation. And those are the ones who I really value and I look up to, because I get to watch people, like these friends of mine, in their classrooms in these situations, and I'm just in awe. I'm in awe of them and how they have a command of their classroom and of who they are as people, and they just, have such a balance in their life. Like they're able to be an amazing educator and also an amazing person at the same time. Those are the people that I really look up to. And there are teachers in my life who I can remember who, when I was going through school, who really played like a significant part in who I am as an educator and as a person now. One of my grade 5 teacher was really important to me, and then when I was in high school, I had a comparative civ teacher, and we had the same one, right? And he was such a hard ass, but awesome. Yeah, like he wanted you to get there, he wanted you to learn, but he wanted to be involved with the person that you are too, and I think that is what makes a good person and a good educator and a good leader. These are the people that I look up to, the ones who build a relationship with kids, and it's not just about curriculum. Yeah. It's interesting that when you talk about it, you say, or talk about your job, you say educator instead of teacher, because even in those two words, that really parallels to a manager and a leader. Because a teacher, you stand there and teach. When you educate, it's you stand there, but you believe in that person and want them to understand. Oh, yeah. So it's interesting that you choose that word, because that even says a lot about you as a leader too, and leadership style. And I like that you said too, like that those teachers that have inspired you have really cared about you as a person, and that's how that has really helped you. So I find that really interesting as well, because that's how it is, I think, when you're even in a business environment, that when someone really cares about you as a person, not just as an employee, it makes you that much better. Yeah, it's about relationships. The teachers that have made an impact in my life I don't remember a single thing they taught me. Yeah. Like how to subtract, how to add, I don't know. It's not the lessons that were important. It's the interaction, it's the relationship that I had with them. How they made you feel. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. How would other teachers three different perspectives. How do other teachers how do you think they would explain your leadership style? Okay. How would students, and how would principals? Okay. I think that other teachers would think or would say that I am flexible, that I am okay with other people taking the lead, with kind of stepping back, like seeing what needs to happen, like seeing where the chips fall first, and then going in and putting my 2 cents in. I think that other educators would see me in that way. I think that students would say that my leadership style is very chill. I'm very, relaxed. I'm really kind of, okay, so, like, you guys want to do a bake sale next week? Let's do it. I don't get really worked up about things, because I don't want the kids to see me in that way and see me getting too stressed about things, because that's not what I want them to think a leader is like. I want them to think that, we're kind of, okay, stuff happens, no big deal. I think that my administrators, that's a good question, because I've had so many, I've had a couple. My administrators last year would say that I'm a yes person. Like, last year, I think I ended up doing so much stuff because my administrators, I think, ended up taking slight advantage of the fact that I say yes all the time. Yeah. So, oh, hey, no, there's no coach for this team. Do you want to coach them? Yes. Oh, hey, there's no one doing this. You want to do it? Sure. I think that they would see me as a yes person. Would you think that, like, you talked about how when you were a student, that it was the people or the teachers that you actually had relationships with and cared about you, do you think that your students would say that about you? Yes. That Ms. Bell invests in me and who I am? Yes. What are some examples of that? Well, there's an example last night. I went to the BC Lions football game, and I'm walking around, and then all of a sudden I hear, "Oh my God, Miss Bell!" And one of my students from my second year of teaching, so she's now 22, runs up to me and she's telling me, oh my God, I'm so happy to see you. I had such a great time when you taught me. I think I taught her leadership and foods. And she's just like, she's telling me everything that's going on with her. She's like, I just applied for my practicum and I had my interview today. And she's like, I'm doing this. And I'm just like, she just seemed so happy. Like, and I was really happy to see her and she was really happy to see me. So those situations are honestly happening frequently.
Yeah.
And
because you're so awesome.
Obviously. And like even last year, I got laid off from the school that I was working at because of, you know, the budget and stuff in Coquitlam. And as soon as I found out, I told my students about it. And last year, with being a home economics teacher, I had the luxury of teaching every kid in the school. And it was the amount of feedback that I got just within a couple of days. I had kids putting signs up on the administrator's door, don't let Miss Bell go, and I had parents emailing me being like, what can we do? There was a petition set up in my classroom, all the kids signed it. So these are the types of things that make me think that I'm doing okay. I think that gives me the validation that I'm making a difference, even if it's small. And the funny thing is, when I look at it, kids who contact me now that I taught years ago are sometimes not the ones that I think that I made the biggest connection with.
Yeah.
They're ones that I don't want to say I don't really remember them, but I don't really remember us having that strong connection at the time, right? But then, you know, a couple of years later, they're coming to me and being like, you know, can you write a reference letter for me? You're the only teacher I feel like I had a connection with at school. And it's kind of, it's weird how that ends up happening.
Yeah.
It's fabulous. It makes you feel great.
Yeah.
But it's kind of different when you're like, oh, I don't really remember us.
But it's also kind of good because I think that says a lot about your leadership style, that you're consistent across the board.
Oh, yeah.
That you're not
favorites.
choosing some people to be one way with and others a different way. What has been the biggest test of your leadership ability and what did you learn from it?
Woo. I think the biggest test generally, like overall, I think is when you come into contact with people who do not have the same vision as you.
How do you manage that? If you manage it.
I think that you have to, well, in the situations that I'm thinking about, I've always felt like it was a lack of understanding on both parts. So like when you're in a situation, so say it's myself and another teacher, we both are in the same situation and he or she thinks that we're doing something wrong and I think the exact opposite. It always has to do with communication. I don't know where they're coming from and they don't know where I'm coming from. So the best way that I've realized is to actually have a conversation with that person, be like, talk to me about what you're thinking. Why do you think this way? And then I, in turn, will talk to them about what I'm thinking and why I feel a certain way. So it is really about understanding and be able to see where another person is coming from. Because a lot of times, and it's because, and these situations have always happened with teachers who have been teachers for a very long time. So people who have been teaching for 20, 30 years. And they're always like, oh, we tried that before and it didn't work. Well, let's try it again. Let's reevaluate it. Let's, move forward. Let's see let's take what you can bring to the table. The fact that, you've been teaching for 30 years and it's an amazing thing. And then use what you have, your experience, and then make what we are going to do now all that much better.
That's a question I was even going to ask, is that I know there are a lot of teachers that have been teachers for so long and they have all this experience, but then you have the innovation and the new ideas and, it's, I could imagine that it would be difficult, like you've said, to really bring that together. So what happens when, you sit down and have that conversation and they are just like, nope, this is how I want it?
That's happened to me before too. I need to know that I've done everything that I can to make that person feel comfortable with what's going on. Mm-hmm. So if we had that conversation and then if they're still feeling the same way, then that's the time where I get the administration involved. Mm-hmm. That's the time where I go and seek outside people to be like, okay, we're trying to do this. This person is not really, with it.
Yeah.
So I need you to step in. And that's when like that managerial part comes in, where they have to manage us. They have to manage all of the teachers. Like we're a difficult group sometimes.
So does that negatively affect the relationship that you have with that person though? Like if you are coming from a place where it's like you have two different ideas and then you come together and you are talking about it and you can't reach a solution, so then you have to go and talk to administration, how does that affect the relationship that you have with that person? Do you go back to talk to that person and say like, this is where I'm coming from? Or is it just something where it's like, I tried, my hands are
I think as professionals, because teaching is a profession, mm-hmm. and we are all there to for the same purpose. Mm-hmm. I think that I would go and speak to the person again afterwards and be like, look, this is where I'm coming from. I just want you to know I completely respect you. Yeah. I respect your opinion. I respect the experience that you have, but we're going to try it out. And, if it works, then it works. If it doesn't, then, they can have their I told you so.
Yeah. So what are some of the things, like, how can you make them feel comfortable? Like...
Use them. Like, I know that some educators who've been around for 25, 30 years mm-hmm. kind of get to feeling a little bit jaded. Yeah. When they see these new, vibrant, excited, innovative teachers coming in and we're going to change the world and we're going to do all of this. And then they are kind of sitting there like, oh, well...
What about
me, right?
They feel a little bit threatened.
Exactly. So the best way is to use them, to use those people, use their experience, go and talk to them. I've learned so much from teachers who have been around for a really long time, but they're, like with any situation, there are always people who are not there for the right reasons. Yeah. And the people that have been around for 25 or 30 years who are still educators, those are the ones that we want to use. Those are the people that we want to have involved with what we're doing.
So how do you, like, the people that have been there for 20 or 30 years that are just in these roles because they have job security, mm-hmm. How do you deal with those people? Because here you are with you have a certain leadership style that you're there for the kids, that you're there, you want, to play on their strengths and have relationships with these kids. Mm-hmm. How do you deal with the people that are just there to make money and have summers off?
I just do my thing. Mm-hmm. And I can't make someone enjoy their job.
Right.
I can't, right? Like, no matter how hard I try, I can't make someone be happy to be at school if they don't want to be there. Mm-hmm. But I can do my job to the best of my ability. Mm-hmm. And I can make a difference in students who come into my classroom. And instead of concentrating on the negativity, mm-hmm. you got to concentrate on the positive. And that's one of the best lessons I was taught when I was doing my practicum, because I was doing a lesson one time and one kid did not want to get involved, and I was so upset. I'm like, why is this kid just driving me crazy? He just doesn't want to be involved with the activity that we're doing. Mm-hmm. And so I sat down with my practicum teacher after, and I was just like, man, it was really annoying, that one kid. And he's like, what about the other 28? Mm-hmm. What about them? What about those 28 kids who were so stoked to be doing this lesson with you? Yeah. He's like, that kid sucked. The negativity. Like, he just, just was like, and I really felt that way too. I was so annoyed after, and he's just like, why? Why are you concentrating on that one negative kid where you need to be concentrating on the 28 positive ones?
Yeah.
And that's exactly how I look at any situation where there's that one person or a couple of people who are they just want to be negative.
Yeah.
They just want to sit there and they just want to, life sucks.
So part of being a leader is being able to essentially just focus on the positive.
Yeah. Always. Always, always, always. Like, you have to. You have to. If you were in any situation, you're always concentrating on the negative, you don't get anywhere.
Yeah.
You don't get anywhere. Mm-hmm. Because some people just are negative, are just going to be that way.
And that can play into, like, the teachers that have been there for 20 or 30 years that are kind of stuck in their ways, that they're focusing on all the negative aspects of all these new teachers that are coming on, instead of focusing on, oh, hey, I can use them just as much as...
which is case in point. Like, I use Instagram and Twitter and I use Facebook in my classroom. I use all of these different social medias. And I had a teacher come and talk to me about it because, like, I don't know anything about it. I want to use it in my classroom. How can we do this? Can you show me how to do it? Heck yes, I can. That's awesome. You've been teaching for 25 years. You want to have Twitter in your class? Let's go. Let's do this.
Awesome. As a leader, what are you afraid of? And how does this impact the type of leader that you are?
I think that you can't really be afraid of anything, but to be a good leader, I think that you need to just be aware of failure. And like I said before, like being able to admit when you have done something wrong, like that is what I think that if I had one fear, and that's what it is failing. Yeah. But it's not really a fear because I look at it in a way that I'm going to learn from it anyways. Yeah.
So, but what would be, as a leader, what's the definition of failure?
When the end result's not achieved. So, like we were talking about the Terry Fox fundraising, if we wanted to raise $20,000, if we didn't reach the $20,000 mark, that could be considered as failure. However, you have to look on the positive side. Hey, we raised $16,000. Yeah. That's still significant.
It's funny that you say that you recognize that, because I was just going to say, but then you're focusing on the negative. Yeah. But, and I think that says a lot about your leadership style too, that it's just part of who you are now, I think. Mm-hmm. Not just in a school environment, but in life. Like, it's something that is in both aspects. Mm-hmm. As a leader, what advice would you give someone going into a leadership position for the first time?
I think that I would tell them to not have unrealistic expectations. Mm-hmm. I know that when I first started teaching, I really kind of came into it and being like, I'm going to make a difference in every single student's life that I teach. So I think that was slightly unrealistic. So
how did that, let me start this again. How did that expectation change?
In my first year, I kind of had a mentor, and her name was Rhonda Trunkfield. She was the athletic director at the school that I was working at, and she was like the leadership guru at our school, and she was so awesome. And I was talking to her one day, and she was telling me about this rule that she kind of adheres to in any situation, is the 10-80-10 rule. And so she says, in any situation that you go in, 10% of people are going to like you right off the bat. No matter what you say, no matter what you do, they're just going to like you. And that other 10%, they're not going to like you at all. No matter how hard you try, no matter how many handstands you do. And then there's that 80% that's in the middle that you need to concentrate on, that you need to be concerned with, because that 80% can go either way. Mm-hmm. And you obviously want it to go, the positive way, right? But they can easily go the negative way too. Mm-hmm. So that was one of the significant moments in my first year when she told me that. Yeah. Made a lot of sense. Made things a little bit more clear.
It's interesting too, just to go back when you said that, you have students that come up to you and you're like, I don't remember who you are. Exactly. But you played a big role in their life, so that kind of would make you feel good too, because I would think that, you know, when you talk about the percentages, like, percentages are probably pretty high.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I'd like to think so.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you never know. We'll see what happens when I've been teaching for 30 years.
And that actually brings up a good question too. How do you keep this, you know, idea of leadership and your leadership style over the years? Like, do you see yourself when you're 60 years old and still teaching, having the same attitude? And
I think that if I don't have it, I shouldn't be teaching.
Mm-hmm.
At all. I've always said that as soon as I don't want to go to work, or I don't have a passion for education, I will stop teaching. I will stop it, because it's not fair to the kids that are in my class. Mm-hmm. That would be horrible. That's like going to a doctor who doesn't really want to be a doctor, and you're having to tell him all your problems. It's like, I don't really care.
Yeah.
Right? So, and education's so significant. We play such a huge role in kids' lives. Like, they spend 6 hours a day with us. Mm-hmm. And if I don't have that passion, if I don't have that, you know, that will to be there, then it's to the detriment of the kids, not to anyone else, just the kids.
Do you think passion plays a big part in leadership and being a good leader?
Yes.
Do you think you can be a leader without having passion?
There's no way. Because then you're not putting your all into it. You're not going to be a successful leader. I think that you need to be involved, to feel it deep down in your core that this is what you're doing is worth it, and what you're doing is beneficial. And if you don't have it, if you don't have that passion, I think that you're not going to be successful. Mm-hmm. Even if, like, on paper you are successful, you're not going to be successful in your life, right?
And why do you think that is?
Why do you think that you won't be successful? Or because you,
like, do you think that it's because people won't buy in? Do you think buy-in's a big part of it? Like, if you're a leader and you're trying to teach people how to, or not teach, or just in your situation it's teach, but if you're leading people and you aren't bought into it and you don't believe in what you're saying and are passionate about it, that people won't be able people won't want to follow you.
People can sense it, and kids, like, especially, they know when you're not in it, when your heart's not in it. They can see it. They're not stupid. And that's why, like, it bothers me, like, when we're talking about those teachers who are around who, you know, shouldn't be teaching anymore. The kids know that they don't want to be there.
Yeah.
Why would I want to be in a classroom with a teacher who literally does not want to be there?
Yeah.
That must be a horrible feeling for kids, to go into a room where it's like a den of negativity, right?
Yeah. Well, thank you for letting me interview you.
You're welcome.
It was awesome.
Thanks. It was amazing.
It was amazing.
Okay, I'm good. Bye.